different from most volunteers because we are not compensated for the work.
Do you want to sit here with us?
No worries. So we aren't compensated for the work we do, but we champion consent. We do a lot of education on it. We are working on improving some of the concerns that the nation has had about it. And thanks to Constab for having outlined what they believe is consent. I've just nicknamed it absolute consent because it's essentially consent that is without intoxicants, without the influence of others, without the feeling of being pressured, without the feeling of fear for retribution if you were to say no. And so, in concept, outlines it a little bit better. I can't think of all of the things, but those are like my pinpoints of like the major
Actually,
things.
yeah, I
I
was
have.
like, that's my pinpoints too, pretty much. Yeah, those are the main ones.
And so, anytime that you're in anything, whether it be a game, whether it be in a private situation between you and a partner, you a play partner, you and the auction, especially, is everything comes down to consent. And if you are not comfortable with what they want to do, even if you say, "Hey, I'm into back massages," and you get this weird vibe from the person, like you can be like, I know what I said, but I'd rather not. And there's nobody that can tell you that that's wrong.
And there's nothing to stop you from walking away.
Yeah.
Yeah, they cover that very thoroughly.
Actually, I will say that last night there was an experience. This is my mother's solicitor, and there was this gentleman who had kind of been walking with us and talking to us, and there was this distraction, and she kind of goes,
why it matters.
"What do we do?" And I said, "We walk away. We're not obligated to anyone." So that's really important to understand that that's okay here, because the nation is trying really hard to bring that to the forefront.
And so, if you're ever faced with those situations and you're alone, there's a couple people you can reach out to. Most camps will always have people like, "Hey, come hang out with us. If you're uncomfortable, feel free to pretend like you're my best friend, and I will go along with it." I have a Queen's Guard favor. Most people, or anybody with this, is a safe person. Anybody with constab, anybody usually with a radio or a staff belt, merchant autocrats in general,
Or me.
or individuals who you just, if they're teaching consent or teaching about consent or in the situation, they're probably pretty safe.
If they're vocal about it, if you feel like they're an advocate out in the party space, and that's a big thing too. Don't be afraid to call someone out on it. If you see something, say something. Which
Absolutely.
they put about luggage, but it's just the same thing. It's just as important for consent, because it's our duty to call out things so that it is brought to attention.
And sometimes people get really nervous and really anxious about calling things out themselves. Like, I know I'm very anti-confrontational. I know. But I have a really hard time saying, you make me uncomfortable. And so if you were to say, "Hey, dude, like, that's not cool," I'd be like, "You're right. That's not cool." And I could then call somebody out. So if you say something, sometimes it gives power to that individual who is.
Adds strength to their voice, because they feel like they're more capable of it because someone else has spoken up. It's like a reminder.
And if you've grown up with abuse or anything, your brain can try to gaslight itself. And so sometimes I'm like, were they really being inappropriate, or was it just which is the funniest part is it doesn't have to be truly considered inappropriate to anybody else. If you're uncomfortable, it's not warranted. But when you see it and you hear it and you say it, "Hey, dude," and it teaches us as adults, like, hey, there are boundaries that need to be set. But especially in family events where children are watching, it teaches the next generation how to do.
Yes.
So if our kids hear a guy talk about a woman or talk to a woman a certain way, they're going to respect that. And if a woman stays silent, young women are going to see and act the same way. Sorry, I'm passionate on subject.
No, it's great.
Good.
You speak really eloquently.
Yeah.
You clearly belong in the Queen's Guard.
I didn't know that I was going to. I had never even attended an event before I joined. I asked somebody, I was like, "Hey, how do I make friends in the nation? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm super introverted." And they said, "Volunteer." Nobody told me about the Queen's Guard. Nobody, I didn't have any clue what was going on, but Andrew said, "This is what we're about, and this is what I'm looking for, and who wants to join?" And I was the first person like, "I'll volunteer." And then when he was asking for captaincy, I was like, "You're probably going to say I'm too new, so," but answer your questions anyway. And funny enough, he appointed me, and now I run the entire thing.
Yeah,
Nice.
and the Queen's Guard.
Congratulations.
The Queen's Guard actually goes back a few years before Andros. It was revived by Bonnie Blackheart of the Ace of Ruin.
Yeah. Yeah, so it started out as a secret society, and it kind of fell to the wayside. And then Andros brought it back with his queen, like what he championed as queen was to make the consent and safe sex
Yeah.
really important.
Safe sex is sexy, consent is mandatory.
And there was a couple wording issues at first, but we got that hammered out.
Yeah.
Andros and the Blue Worm, they're amazing people.
Yeah.
They all will champion you.
Very safe space.
Very, very safe space.
I mean, she's gone over a lot of it, actually. I'm like, yeah.
He's like, man.
I was like, I was on point.
I'm so okay with this. I'm like, yeah. I mean, like, were you reading my cards earlier? No,
No,
But-
I actually wasn't.
I know.
Consent also extends to food and drink as well.
Yes.
Never give anyone something without telling them exactly what's in it.
Allergens are a thing. You know,
Allergens are
And
very much a
sometimes
thing.
It's easier to say, hey, are you allergic to anything?
yes.
Before you pass something. And that's an easier, like, because if you pass me something, like, hey, try this drink, I'm not going to think necessarily, like, what's in it. But I am super allergic to watermelon, kind of like honeydew. At Toasted Tortuga time. It's not
No, I,
At Toasted Tortuga, Johnny Peacock had a drink. And I didn't know that it had melon in it, and he passed it to me, and I had a severe allergic reaction.
And
That ruined my entire event, essentially.
another side to that is there actually are adults on site who do not drink.
Yes.
I'm one of them.
I'm also one of them now.
I haven't had alcohol in over 8 years. And that's, personal choice. I've never been to an event and had alcohol. So you
To be
can,
honest, with as warm as it is, I'm not gonna say don't drink. I'm
Yeah.
gonna say make sure you drink responsibly.
There you go. Drink responsibly.
what I was saying in the Seadogs 101 class yesterday was know yourself. Everybody has their own limits and what they can and cannot tolerate.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
if you've never been to an event like this before, assume bare minimum. Assume like you've never drank before in your life, because with alcohol, with stress, with constant warm clothes, with constant moving, with constant energy being expelled, and I know for me, as it gets warmer, I forget to eat, which plays a huge part in how quick alcohol hits your system.
Your metabolism will fluctuate
Yes.
wildly.
Yeah. Just based off the heat, let alone whether or not you consume food or anything.
Yeah. So assume like you're a newbie to drinking.
Because yeah, you're in a completely different atmosphere. You don't know. Again, back to the electrolytes. You don't know the balance of the chemicals in your body. You don't know anything. So or you don't know how you react to the corset. We were discussing earlier how when you take off the corset, you get the second rush.
Release the
Sometimes it's
Kraken.
worse than the worst.
yes,
Worse
yeah.
than
Sometimes
the
it's so bad.
The best way to go about it is if you're drinking in a corset, wait till you're sober in the corset, and then take it off. And
That's
that sucks, and that's
yeah.
really hard if you're about to sleep.
I was also saying, I said, if you get sober and then you take it off, you get a second drunk. But if you're drunk and you take it off, you pass out.
Or you get really sick. And the worst
Yeah, you
one
get sick.
is when you get to the point where you feel like you need to puke, but
Yeah.
can't. That's a horrendous sensation.
yeah.
And I can't
No, that's
imagine that
worse.
at an event.
Oh yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, that's miserable.
And while talking about drinking and consent, it's like that is a big part of the whole discussion about consent. Is that when you are inebriated, or when you are incoherent, you are not making clear decisions. And I had someone earlier ask me, what if you're both drunk and you both make the decision that it's okay to be together? And I said, just what you just said, about you need to know yourself, you need to know your real limitations, you need to know just how incoherent you really are, and you need to be able to ask that question decisively if they understand how inebriated they are, and that discussion consent behind it all is really about communication and talking to each other. If you can't talk to each other for whatever reason, either you're not comfortable with it, your person you're talking to is not comfortable with it, you don't know how to answer the question, you don't know how to ask the question, all of those things pretty much mean you probably shouldn't.
That said, things happen, and
Yeah,
we get
absolutely.
that.
Yes.
However, so being from the kink community, it's a little easier for me to draw this standard. As a masochist, when I am shown pain, I get drunk, essentially. And so much so, okay, let's go to rope. I get rope drunk stupidly easy. You could tie rope down my arm, something super classy, something super simple. You take it off of me and I can't stand for 45 minutes afterwards.
I get whip drunk.
Yeah.
Whip crack
it's
drunk.
A thing.
Yep.
And a lot of people sometimes during their scenes or their sessions or whatever you want to call them will suddenly get that sexual tension and want to. And the rule of thumb for most tops, most people, is if it wasn't talked about prior to the start, it's off the table. However, that said, if you are super sexual during this time, you just both step aside and you bring it up next time and be like, hey, like when you're talking next,
This is good.
or last time we played, you wanted to do this, or last time we drank or we were together, this is what you wanted, but we were both inebriated. Is that something that you're really interested in? Because sometimes it's just a mood. Sometimes you're
Trans encounters happen plenty. Trans encounters happen plenty. And there's no shame, nor judgment, nor anything for that. We are just trying to encourage that idea of asking and communicating. And, you can ask
and
for consent at any
free.
point. Yes, yeah. So one of the things I wanted to talk about.
Rouge, can I need to bring something up.
Yes, please.
By Oregon state law, if you are inebriated, you cannot legally consent.
Okay, there you go.
And they consider inebriated as if you're unsafe to drive a car.
Right.
You're not able to consent to
That
anything. You're not allowed to sign a contract. You're not allowed to.
that was actually used as the consent policy for Port Royal this year.
Excellent.
And it's a super easy thing. Like, are you comfortable driving right now?
No? So you probably shouldn't decide to drive your body.
Yep. Yep.
Or your partner's body.
No car driving, no
Can't
sex
drive your
driving.
car?
No.
Don't drive your body.
No driving. I love you,
Or your
Rouge.
joystick. I mean, like,
I don't know how to
it's
answer
both
that
fire
question.
control. And a part of the thing that people really need to understand is how it works. Because the one thing about consent is it's not a continuous thing. It's a continually asked thing. Always. I have friends who, tell me, oh, you always have consent to give me a hug, but I will still ask every time.
And I would ask you to. I have PTSD, and I could say, hey, you can hug me every single time, but he has no idea if I'm having a really bad day.
Yes.
If he was, I used to tell a friend, like, you don't bother me if you grab me from behind, it doesn't bother me. That was up until I had a really bad day, and he did exactly that, and I flashbacked and grabbed him by the throat before I had even realized. And that can be a really scary thing. And I'm not saying everybody in our community has PTSD or has history, but a lot of people do.
But on that,
Yeah,
you can also revoke that consent.
Yes.
That's something else. Even in the middle of an engagement of any kind, you can always say, I'm not comfortable, and I'm going to walk away. And that's really important for everyone to understand, because that's so often looked over or skipped or thought, I'm going to get judged, or I'm going to piss this person off, or whatever.
I think it kind of goes with that idea of like, oh, he bought me dinner, so I have to kind of.
Yes. The answer is you don't have to.
You don't.
You can absolutely walk away. You could have eaten your dinner and be like, cool, thanks, I'm sorry, I'm uncomfortable, bye. What? You asked me for a cream-filled dessert? Oh, I'm gonna go ahead.
I'm friends with the leadership of Seadog Nights, and with them, I hug them constantly because they're good friends. But today my feet were hurting, and I was on a mission, and I really didn't want to talk or touch anybody. And he's like, "Can I hug you?" And I'm like, "Right now." And he's like, but had he like pushed it, I probably could have ruined the friendship, and that sucks to do that.
Oh, well, why not? Because I said no. Yeah. Because I said no, it's my body. Yeah. And
I've known Percy Proprietor from the Orcs for years, and Port Royal, I went up to give him a hug, and I just opened my arms as an ask, and he put his hand down to shake my hand. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And then he hugged me after because he said, first my greeting, then your greeting. Cool. Okay.
So outside of the events, I work with a nonprofit that works with child survivors of physical and sexual abuse. And we do healing camps, and one of the rules that we have is safe touch is the best touch. So it means we ask every single time. And sometimes a kid won't be comfortable with a hug, but could be cool with a handshake or maybe a high five or
Fist bump.
a fist bump. And if not, that's cool too.
Yeah.
Like, and I use a lot of what we teach our kids because we're teaching them to use their voice with adults because it's that simple sometimes.
Yeah, it is.
And those authority figures can be very intimidating.
They can. Yeah.
Never ever ever feel like because somebody says they're staff or because I say I'm Queen's Guard or somebody says I'm a captain that you have to do anything for us.
Or because I'm a princess.
Yeah. You have to do what I want because I said so, because I'm such and such.
No.
Truly, I don't have to do anything you tell me because I am my own person. Thank you very much.
And we are in a big old land of make-believe, and it doesn't matter.
Your
I will
title
say
literally
this.
means nothing.
I am a service-oriented person. If you were the same way, for this event specifically, I would say get friends that know you really well to keep you in check. Because I say yes all the time, and often I regret it. So I have friends that are like, Rosemary, you had 2 volunteer shifts, you're wrangling the kids, you are helping in this, and you're doing this, and you're doing this, and you're doing this, and you're doing this. Are you really sure if you want to do this too?
Yeah. Checking in. Checking.
It's called helium hand.
Communicate.
And I'm notorious for it. And a lot of those of us who are in staff or leadership positions right now, we all have that.
Yes. Yeah. Taking on more than one human normally would be capable of. However, in extraordinary circumstances, heroes come forth. Not all heroes wear capes.
Capes are too hot during
It's
the day.
too hot for sea dogs to wear capes. It's so true.
At
Although
night,
it's a bit
though.
chilly at night. Yeah.
Edna Moan says no capes.
Yeah. It was hot last night.
It was cold last night. What did
It
you do?
was cold.
Sorry.
It got
Yeah.
down to 47.
It was cold.
I had a
It's
parking
hot
shift
today,
from
I usually run
10
hot,
to 1.
so like,
I
yeah,
couldn't
last night
sleep
was
last
good.
night.
That was so awesome. I love last night.
I was like, pissed.
But yeah, to follow what you said about the people in leadership have, the helium hand staph infection syndrome. I'm currently senior staff for 4 events this year and junior for a 5th. And 2 months ago, I was asked to join the board of a 6th.
Oof, I wanna.
That starts next year.
That's a lot.
Very good.
On top of running this. So
Thanks for joining us. Yeah.
Yeah.
See you around.
Yeah, see you around.
yes.
All the grass off my skirt.
Bye. Have fun.
Lovely.
Bye, guys. Yeah, it was really interesting when I was looking up, things about consent and kind of how to talk about it to other people. I was reading this really great list of like rules and things that I had written out, and I'm reading through it, and I get down to the bottom, and it says, now before every procedure, I'm like, lo and behold, I was reading like a medical thing. And so I looked through some others and stuff, and I realized all the consent for really anything is the same.
For the most part.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah,
It's very clinical speaking sometimes, though, and that's the hard part. Some people are like, well, I'm not doing a procedure, I just want to hug them. Well,
but
that's
yeah.
technically a procedure.
And it only takes 2 seconds to say, is it okay? Are you comfortable with? May I? Oh, do you want a? And if they say no, don't push. There's nothing more unattractive in any situation, whether you're trying to get someone to buy something, or you're trying to get someone to play a game, or you're trying to get involved with someone, than when you say no and they keep going. Well, I gave you consent. Well, that's great. I'm not giving you mine. If I wanted to give it to you, I would tell you, or I'll come back to you with it. Which is a big thing, I think, especially at these events, because a lot of people want to keep pushing, and that's not necessarily at all what needs to be happening when they say no, be respectful of it, and then leave it off and come back to it.
And that can be a huge thing with the alcohol, especially.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think along with that is the non-verbal non-consent. Like, if somebody in Mundania, if a woman has their headphones on, it's very clear that she doesn't want to talk to you unless, like, she looks up and makes eye contact, turns
Right.
it off. but for the most part, I read a great article recently, and it was directed at men, but it's very. The point was that we don't know what the other person has gone through all the time, and we don't know if they have trauma. We don't know anything, and so a good rule of thumb: if you're ever approaching somebody just cold and you don't know them, a great question to ask yourself is, if I was an unsafe person, and the person I'm trying to approach, would they be safe right now? And if the answer is no, then it's not appropriate.
Right.
And that was like a light bulb for me for some reason, but it's true. You know, if a person is walking with their children, it's not the proper time to go and like
Definitely not. Yeah.
necessarily introduce yourself. You can say hi, but if they don't try to like stop the conversation, then just move on.
Yeah, and that goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier about how if you can't talk about it, if you don't know how to talk about it, if you don't feel right talking about it, if they can't talk about it,
Right?
you probably shouldn't talk about it. Just leave on. Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe you guys will get to a party wedge and realize that you both like the same drink, or you both want to do the same like game or something, and it sparks a conversation. But at the point in time, just leave it. It's not worth crossing a boundary.
Yeah, consent is very much a two-way street. You can have it wholeheartedly from one side and not from the other, but that's not consent.
No.
So once you have consent, verbally, physically, in all manner, coherently, with full capacity of mind, then you have a consenting situation. I haven't really, gotten to engage with a whole lot of people as correctly at the moment.
What can I say?
Good. That's what we need. Yeah, that's the thing about it is that you can't be afraid to really speak up and say, hey, what's happening there? Hey, I'm cool with that.
And
Hey, I'm not.
implied consent too.
Yeah.
It goes to like, hey, say you're my partner.
Right.
We have things between us, but at the same
It
time,
doesn't mean that you can automatically assume that that's okay for you to do.
that is true. You can always say, hey, like, I'm communicating what you need,
Yeah.
and just presenting it like, hey, I need to be hugged right now.
Right.
Can we do that? And I've learned that in my relationships, when I communicate with my partners or my partner, it's healthier, it's
Yes.
stronger.
Yeah.
And we have less of these communication breakdowns.
Yes.
And it goes kind of hand in hand is that communication, regardless, or also along with consent, is saying, these are my needs, and having that proper ability to give you the it's full disclosure of
Yes.
this is who I am and this is what I need right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that way the person can be like, well, I can't do that for you right now, but I can XYZ instead, or we can go do this instead. And
Or I just need some space myself. That's okay too.
hey, give me 25 minutes of peace and quiet, so without anybody around me, and then we can talk for an hour and a half.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Back. Wish to come aboard.
This way. This way.
Yeah, and that.
So you're not walking in front of my
that I had
running
written down
camera?
was about how not only consent, talking about
Yeah,
implied
had to
consent.
go deal with
That's one of the things that comes up so much in the conversation about this, is people that forget to check in. We keep dancing around the communication, which you talked about how consent and communication work kind of hand in hand, but really I feel like consent doesn't exist without communication. Because if you're not communicating your needs, your desires, your I can't do that.
But you need full disclosure.
Yeah,
period.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it too. Full disclosure.
Because if I told you, hey, come hang out at this party with me, but I didn't tell you, hey, there's gonna be a ton of alcohol and I know you don't drink.
Right.
Or hey, come hang out with me.
In this case, omitting is the same as lying, just
Yeah.
because you're obstructing them from having full knowledge of the situation, so they can't consent to it.
It's kind of like that stupid, disgusting trend of stealthing,
Oh,
of not disclosing to your partner that you're not going to use
a condom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's abysmal. It has. I have a zero tolerance
Absolutely.
for
Mhm.
not
Yeah.
disclosing it.
Because you don't have consent to do that. You don't have consent to violate someone else's body in that sense. In that sense, it is a violation. Because they have not given you consent. Yeah, if you have consent to do that, it's not. But if you're, under the agreement that you're going to use a condom and then you don't use them, that's tragic. Absolutely disrespectful and tragic, and I hope that nobody is doing that. Because, shame.
You don't want to know what's going to happen. to
There
that
are very
person in
few things
prison.
I will shame someone for, but that is one of them. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just that. In that sense, is not just consent from them that you're missing. That is lack of respect and control over your own body. That is when you have, really given up on the idea of respecting what the situation itself is, and those are not necessarily people that you would even want to engage with in any manner, because they're not going to show you a lot of respect pretty much anyway.
I go. I use kink because it sometimes it's easy as an outside source.
Great.
Sometimes you'll hear, I don't have boundaries, but if you really stop and you slow down and you chat and you really think about it, boundaries will come up.
Yes.
And sometimes quicker than you realize. And I think the same goes with sex. Sometimes you're like, oh yeah, whatever, like I'll do whatever.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
you realize you get into a situation, you're like, wait a second.
I don't know who I'm for.
I have a standard line that I give people when they tell me they have no limits. I say, oh, anal fire fisting it is. And all of a sudden, oops, they have limits.
Sounds like an interesting experience. Yeah.
It can be done.
Probably not up
forever.
most alleys, but yeah.
I've seen
And
it
that's
done.
okay if it takes
It's not
forever.
pleasant.
It's
But-
engaging. It's entertaining.
Yeah.
Like, those conversations are so great. You get to learn so much about someone in a way that,
You get to learn more about them as a human. You get to
Yeah.
put humanity back in them. They're
You
no
do.
longer just a
Body
warm
before you.
hold
Yes.
where you could use or
or one pole for you to use.
Joystick time.
uh, um, I constantly remind
e-ticket.
people to you just strip them of their humanity.
Yes.
Exactly.
When you take away that
I can say, oh, he's hot, and just talk about him like he doesn't exist, but the reality is he exists.
Mhm.
And same with a woman is to objectify her. You strip her of her humanity. If you don't talk to her, you strip her of her humanity.
Yes.
You don't ask her for her wants and her needs and her desires. You just assume.
Mhm.
And that's when you strip somebody of that enough, you do some serious damage that will never be repaired.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's really hard for some people to realize is, and don't get me started with, I didn't intend to violate her consent.
It's not about your
Because-
intentions. You don't get to decide whether or not you offend someone. That's the funny thing about offending someone. You don't get to decide when you upset someone.
I didn't intend to hurt you. Well,
That's
You
good for
did.
Like, I'm sure you didn't. Like, if you did intend to do it, you'd be.
That's a
exactly-
whole other issue, okay?
Yeah,
Like,
then
I'm
we
trying to
need
be
talk
polite
about
and
something
tell
different.
you, hey, I don't like that. You've hurt me. Yeah. If your intention is to hurt me,
It's like,
well, buddy.
you didn't mean to do
We
it,
didn't
that's why
talk
we're
enough to
having
begin
this
with.
conversation.
Yeah. And that, again, back full circle to that whole, if you can't talk about it, don't do it.
Mhm.
Because it's important to bring that up, to communicate and to touch. And, touch on that
Touch base.
subject. Oh, yeah, thanks for touch base. Finish the sentence would help. It's important to touch base. It's important to touch base. Yeah. Communicate.
I remember the person is
Everything's
human
going to
too. Like they're gonna
Yep.
make mistakes.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
gonna
They're gonna do
drop the
embarrassing
ball.
and stupid and weird things, and the things that make you angry and frustrated, and they're definitely gonna drop the ball when you're just as responsible to pick it up.
In kink, there are times that you've never played with somebody before and shit happens because you didn't think to talk about it.
Mhm.
So I think a big part after a consent violation has happened is to talk. You need to have that conversation with somebody because while it doesn't matter that they didn't intend to hurt you, they did. And most people will be incredibly sorry if you say, hey, I never consented to X, Y, Z, but it happened.
Right.
And I felt really uncomfortable people, or worse, I felt like I couldn't speak up. And people, I've said that to some people, and it's just destroyed them. Like, they emotionally had to like step back for several hours or several days to be like, I am so
What did I do?
sorry, Rosemary.
How could I do it?
And then that conversation afterwards of how can we prevent this? And there are times where I've told somebody, I forgive you, but I need time before you and I can continue as friends or pick up from where we left off if that's
Right.
an option.
Right.
I recently had a situation, and I was so upset with him at the time that I dropped him out of my life. And it took 4 or 5 months of like really doing some work on myself and some introspection to reach out and say, you know, I'm sorry for how I responded as the person who it happened to. I know where your heart was and your intentions, and I know that you are sorry. And I know that you're a good person, and I know that it was just a miscommunication. Miscommunications happen. It's what you do afterwards that defines you as the person who violated the consent and the person whose consent was violated.
Yes.
Because you can run to the cops immediately and say, hey, I removed my consent, and that can do some serious damage. And I'm not saying don't, if you feel like you need to speak up,
Do so.
definitely do so.
Definitely do so.
I'm not saying don't.
If you can and you feel you need to, absolutely do. Yeah.
That said,
Also talk if you can.
most of the time people will receive you if you come and say, hey, this is what happened. And I would say have that conversation first, engage that person before you're like, you know, he did it casually, or she did it casually. And when I brought it up to them, they had no remorse, and they put the blame on me. That to me is a huge red flag to go and absolutely disclose.
Yes.
Because if they can do it to you casually, that means that one, it's not their first time.
Right.
Two, they don't care.
Yeah.
Or three, a combination.
Yeah.
But I think you can tell a lot about use your gut. Absolutely. Because most people can figure out if somebody is being genuine.
Trust yourself, trust your instincts.
Absolutely.
Your intuition, trust,
And know that reaching out or being the survivor of an incident does not make you less of a person at all. Speaking up doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you childish. It does not make you a tattletale or any of those situations.
Yes.
It's taken a really long time. So I have a ton of history of trauma in my past. And it takes a long time for you to trust that gut. But I would say that every time a trauma occurred, it was because I chose to override what my gut feeling was. My stomach was super uncomfortable with said person. But I wanted to believe they were good. So I overrode that, stuck it out, and a situation happened.
Right.
Exactly as my gut said. And that holds a whole new set of like self-condemnation and a lot of self-hatred. Reach out to friends.
Still not your fault though.
No, it's not your fault.
Yeah, but I mean that's
Still-
just important to understand also for other people that
No, and I've been down that road myself as well.
It will take time to come to terms with yourself sometimes. I would say always, I say this in general, most people need mental health help. And it's not in a way of like, oh, you're crazy and you're psycho. Having that relationship with a mental health professional just before anything occurs. I say that for children, for adults, for the elderly, for poly people, monogamous people, for kinky people, for vanilla people. Having that communication with a mental health professional, even a friend who has mental health first aid or things like that, can help process. If you're not comfortable with talking to people, journal. Your journaling will, writing, poetry, those things you can really, I find it for myself at least, I can dissect things without being vulnerable to people. And then in the end, I can take this writing, and I don't necessarily have to speak, and I can say, hey, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I went through. Can you read this and give your feedback or something? and open that dialogue. We're an isolated community sometimes. We decide that we want to go through things very solo,
Right.
and we can't do that. Human beings are social creatures.
Yes.
And so if you go through an incident, if you can't talk to a human, talk to a dog.
Yeah. You just need some kind of an
Or
outlet because it's so
cats.
hard to dissect your own
Cats.
psychosis, you know.
If you
Talk
stay
about it.
inside yourself, you will make it worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it'll tear you
Tear
apart.
yourself down.
And generally when you shove things down, you can pretend to be okay for a little bit, but it'll bubble up.
Yeah.
And it's never okay.
Eventually
In the
Band-Aid
sense
falls off.
that you'll be better off breaking down. You'll suffer from depression. You'll suffer from suicidal ideation. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen right away. But pain tends to snowball.
And it's, you know, just degradation of your being.
And it starts to chip away at your humanity, I think, again. And remember that you're human. And forgive yourself. There's a poet, Sarah Kay, out of New York, and she has a poem called The Type. One of the lines says, "Forgive yourself for the mistakes you've made, or the decisions you've made, the ones you still call mistakes, but you tuck them in at night and know this. Know that you are the type of woman who is meant to have a place to call yours. You are a person who built yourself. You were meant, like, it was based off of a quote by Richard Stedman that said that everybody deserves a place, but it should never be inside of somebody else. And she's an amazing poet, but that's a sidetrack. She got me through a lot. Let's just say that. Where's it going? Anyway, we all make decisions that sometimes we look back and we say, I wish I hadn't.
Right.
Remember that you're human. We all have those. Reach out, whatever that is. If that takes a week, if that takes a month, if that takes a year, 10 years, 15 years, reach out eventually. You know, have grace with yourself, and surround yourself with people who will show you grace too.
Mm-hmm.
If you're too afraid to talk to somebody that is supposed to be your friend or a confidant,
You new friend of confidence.
exactly.
Yeah, you know, one thing that I've asked myself is, don't afraid to be a little selfish.
Be
You know,
selfish.
you have to take care of yourself first and foremost. You're the most important person in your life. Granted, when you have children, things change.
That's a different
It's
story.
a whole different story. But I mean, really, in the long run, you're the only one that's going to take care of you. And so you have to make sure first and foremost that you are doing what is right by you. And that goes for all things, you know, coming back to the conversation of consent in that sense of that even if something makes you uncomfortable, never be afraid to walk away. Never be afraid to say, I'm uncomfortable, and walk away, because that is what you need to do selfishly, just for you.
And never, or I would even venture to say that
Selfish
don't
is a
feel.
negatively connotated word.
It's not a bad word.
Negative thing, no. Not always.
Take time if you have to.
Yes.
If you feel like you're just chickening out for whatever reason, because that's one thing that I feel sometimes.
Just
It's like,
check it out.
you're welcome to sit with it for a second and be like, you know what? Am I chickening out because I'm too afraid of this boundary? Like, is this a personal thing, or is this because I really don't feel comfortable? And you're welcome to walk out for any reason whatsoever. But don't ever tell yourself it's chickening out.
That's true. You're making the conscious decision of what you need to do. Feel uncomfortable. And if you need to push yourself faster,
May I have some of that water?
just come faster.
That one's actually empty.
Yeah.
That was
And
Commodore
actually,
Morgan's
like-
from earlier. You are absolutely welcome to rinse it out and refill it at my tank if you need something to drink.
No, I'm just being thirsty and I want to drink water.
I know, I'm feeling the same way. Actually, we're coming up on 5 o'clock, so
Perfect.
I'm
Stop it now, but we're going to do this again on Sunday.
I'll be right back. Yeah. That's, you know, in the end too, it's that communication with yourself also. Because you really have to know yourself and talk to yourself and not be afraid to ask yourself hard questions and not be afraid to push yourself a little. if you have that conversation with yourself and you think, am I just uncomfortable or am I just afraid of the thing? Sometimes it's okay to do a thing you're afraid of. Or, you know, do
Totally,
something that
it's
makes you
okay.
uncomfortable once a day. But don't do something that makes you feel like you're
thirsty, then you are already dehydrated.
out of your
You know,
comfort zone of appropriateness.
like as an
That's the thing.
asexual, last year at Bedwarmers Trials, I was really uncomfortable and I couldn't figure out
Yeah,
if it was, just my fear of being public about my sexuality,
right,
or if it was because I was truly uncomfortable.
right.
And
Because you're adverse to what would happen.
I say sometimes it takes 20 seconds of courage to get over that fear, if it is truly just a fear of an unknown. But after that 20 seconds, if you're still like, my gut says this is disgusting, and 20 seconds does not, like, you can prolong somebody 20 seconds before making a decision. You
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
If at the end of 20 seconds you're like, I'm still not okay with this,
Just say, I'm not okay with this. And walk away. And that's okay too.
hell,
You can always go back and try it again. Like 90% of the time anyway.
yeah, you're,
And if not, it's okay. It's the once in a lifetime opportunity you just weren't there for. And that's alright too. And it's alright to say yes too. That's the other side of it,
right?
saying yes.
Mhm.
And being like, cool, let's do the thing. Hey, that looks like a fun game. What are you doing? I'm gonna take that weird salty lemon almond thing to my
Oh,
face.
God.
Let's do it.
That was so nasty last year.
In your eyes and your mouth and your shot glass.
I never got any in a shot glass.
Ole. I think I got like a shot glass.
So a couple years ago, I was at Slut Walk Seattle, and there was a chant there that really, really resonated with me. Everywhere you go, no matter how you dress, no means no, yes means yes. It's so simple.
That's important to do.
Yep.
That, clothing is not consent.
No,
So
absolutely
easy to
not.
get that. Like, oh, look at the pretties. Oh,
Just
whatever.
because I'm topless walking
Yeah.
around
doesn't mean
Tortuga.
I'm asking for you to grab my tit.
Exactly.
Just because I
Same as the men, too.
participated in Miss Topless Tortuga does not mean that you get to come up and just grope me,
Right.
which did personally happen. But
Or
there are
if
people
even
that,
it like what really gets me is that if I've had sexual engagement with you, it doesn't give you permission to grope me whenever you want, just because I look sexy in whatever I'm wearing at the time. You know what I mean? That's the thing too. They're like, oh, I see you naked, let me grab it. Like, no,
Ooh,
just ask. It takes
good
no
steaks.
thought.
I've got good steaks.
along with that is like the cat calling too. Is be mindful when you're paying compliments, because sometimes it comes across as creepy.
So much fun.
Never apply pressure to the situation. Never make
Coerce,
somebody
no, don't
feel.
coerce someone into
No,
consenting.
buy what you
That's not
want to.
consent.
I find that whatever you do, it's most fun when everybody wants to be there, wants to participate, wants to be part of the action, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
It only, like, if you were taking your children to the park and one of your kids didn't want to go, are you going to really have all that much fun listening to one complaint
Right.
you don't want to be there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's put it in that super mundane way.
Yeah.
Is if you tried to take two children and one didn't want to go to to a situation like a family, your kid didn't want to come to Seadogs,
Right.
but you forced them. How miserable are they going to be? And how miserable are you going to be?
Exactly.
Same thing applies to sex. Same thing applies to kink. Same thing applies to any of the games that we play, any of the situations we do.
Make sure you're both having fun.
Mhm.
Right?
And
Otherwise, what's the point?
if you're gonna compliment someone on something that they personally can control,
Yes.
rather than
Absolutely.
a physical attribute.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I like your hair in that style. Or, oh, that's a
That's
lovely gown. Did you make it yourself? Oh,
Or you have a great personality that just lights up the room.
that's such a beautiful.
Tattoos are a great compliment.
Mhm.
So long, like within appropriate area. Like, hey, that's
No,
really
I like
cool.
that lips on your ass.
But that ink on your leg. You
Yeah.
have amazing ink, if I remember right.
Thank you. I'm like, I just got some more. Wait, would you like to see it? I just got a big tall ship.
Nice.
See? Those are things, like, people are proud of the art. They're proud of the clothes that they make. If you ask a woman, or if you compliment a woman's dress, she'll most likely tell you it's on sale, or
And
she
it has
made it
pockets.
herself, or it has
Yes, pockets, yes.
We absolutely do that.
Yes.
I find a lot of pirates, they like anything that they found like at the bins is their favorite place. So like, I found this at the bins, I spent 30 cents on it.
Tricky knickknacks, cool things. Like all kinds
Well, like,
of things.
I sat down earlier and someone complimented me on my shirt. First words out of my mouth, it was 99 cents at Goodwill.
Somebody complimented me on the
That's what
dress
you're
I was
most
wearing
proud of.
yesterday.
Like, I got a deal.
Exactly.
I inherited my garb from a woman from SCA who retired from it.
Oh, nice.
The dresses are beautiful, and everybody complimented me like how within theme I was, and I'm like, thanks, they're hand-me-downs. I adore them. Like, complimenting people on things that they can control.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
Personality traits really make people, they don't feel like they're being coerced by it.
Right. Because it also means that you're paying attention. You know, if you're noticing someone's personality, you're actually paying attention to it and they're behaving the same.
And with that said, meaning if I know that you heard me, that means that when we talk about what I consent to, what I don't consent to, what I want, I'm gonna trust that you're actually listening versus the douchebags that yeah, sure. And then 30
Whatever it
seconds
takes
later,
to get in your pants.
and that's a shitty feeling. Don't be that guy. Don't be that girl either.
Don't
But
be the girl, Don't be the girl that thinks that just because you're a girl, you can get away with it.
No, women are just as
Upheld to
culpable
Yeah.
for it than guys are, and everybody in between.
it doesn't matter your age, your ethnicity, your religion, your gender, your identity. Like, it doesn't matter any of those
Everyone
things.
has a responsibility.
You have a responsibility to not only yourself, because violating consent shows a lack of respect even for yourself.
Yeah.
A lack of respect for people around you, lack of respect for yourself.
We're doing a trading blanket.